Hey everybody, welcome to Sew with Joe. Today we're picking up where we left off last time, working on my one of my pairs of 20-plus-year-old jeans. And today we're going to do pocket extensions. Talked about this before on the channel, I've done this before on the channel. But right now I want to make my pockets a little bit longer, and I'm going to take you through the whole process this time instead of just showing you the sewing. Basically the deal is I want my phone to be able to fit further into my pocket so it's not always jamming into my hip. So take a look at her from the inside. And we'll get onto the good world news very soon. In between doing this, today it's a collection of quick hits, a lot of little good world news stories. So I'll give you those quick hits in between working on pocket extensions. So basically what you do is you cut the bottom off straight, or you cut it crooked, and then you can, well, you'll see, we'll figure it out. Then you put the pocket inside and safety pin it and sew it. So the first thing you do is you dig out your pile of pockets that I'm sure you all have sitting around at your place, and you try and find an appropriate pocket. While we do that, we're going to talk about squirrels and how squirrels might help us get further out into space. That might work. So what squirrels do is they hibernate. And while they hibernate, they actually fare very well. And the way that they do this, cheers, is they have a very unique system. Oops, sorry, that was quite loud. They have a very unique system in which their gut recycles urea and uses that urea which would otherwise be discarded as urine waste. They use that urea to create new body proteins. Or tissue proteins. Body proteins, tissue proteins, same thing. So the urea is pulled back into the body and actually forms muscle. And for squirrels, this is extremely important because when they come out of hibernation, they are instantly in their mating season. and the more muscle tissue that they can keep over winter, the more likely they are to survive, for one thing, and for another to be able to procreate. So the squirrels with the genes, with the ability to pull in their urea and reuse it, they survived. And scientists are studying this so that they can figure out a way to utilize this feature, I guess you could say, in outer space. Okay, so for the pocket, what I do is I cut off the entire bottom. So basically, astronauts if they could figure out how to, or if the scientists could figure out how to trigger or something like this in the astronauts, then it could be beneficial for long-term spaceflight. Okay, so once it's in here, what I do is I turn it inside out. And I slide this pocket into this pocket. And you try to line everything up as well as you can with the other pocket. Especially paying attention to this edge. This long, straight edge needs to be straight in the pocket. And since this is curved down, this will want to come straight across. See? So you'll actually end up taking out more of this piece of pocket. And the extension comes in with, you know, the difference between this and this that you're cutting versus adding on. And just very important to make sure that everything's in there straight and flat, and, you know, straight from this corner, straight across. I think this is still at a bit of an angle. Let's see. Where was the piece that I cut out now? Okay, yeah, I just cut right off the bottom. So it would make sense that we would have to take some out of here. Let's grab something straight. that'll work. Just grab this inside edge and that outside edge. Pull it in tight. And then we do some pinning. I'm going to do a little bit of trimming. Just to make it a little bit more manageable. I've got another good world news snippet, and that is a magnesium-rich diet can help fight cancer cells. So if you have cancer or want to prevent cancer, consider adding magnesium to your diet a little bit more. Another good bit of news. I don't know if you remember, about 11 years ago, they came up with a leukemia treatment. And that treatment has now stood the test of time, and the patients are still in remission. So they can officially call it a cure now. So there is officially a cure for leukemia. You know, nothing stands the test of time like time, so they had to give it this long before they could officially decree a cure. So once your pins are in, you'll want to check and make sure that your pocket is coming out the way that you hope that it will. And I think that's good enough for me. So then you retuck. And if you're a little out, you might have to unpin and repin, and I could do that, but I'm not gonna. What I'm gonna do is just cut straight across and sew straight across. And I'm gonna clean up this corner when I get to it. And yeah, then this line should be kind of parallel with your seam. It is kind of, so it's close enough, good enough. And break out my big coach needle. And take a pretty good overlap because the material is not very thick. And I'm going to use my usual blanket stitch because it is very strong. And take a good overlap if you want the blanket stitch to grab a decent amount of material. There'll be, a little bit of a crease there, but it'll be strong. And while I struggle with this a little bit, I'll say some good world news in the area of early catching of breast cancer. And that is doctors have discovered that there are signs, there's early indicators of breast cancer that can be found during a cervical exam. So if you do go in for your cervical exam, you can they can possibly see early indicators of breast cancer. I don't understand the technology, but it's very encouraging and should save lives. And that's huge. So with any kind of cancer, catching it early is very important. If you end up letting it get into the late stages, it's very, very difficult to come back from that. Cheers. There's hundreds of different kinds of cancer out there, and pretty much everybody knows someone that's had one form or another. So if we can catch one type a little bit sooner, the world will be a better place. I think I'm going to switch over to some yellow thread, some very thick yellow thread, and this will not be seen. This is the bobbin of thread that I used for most of my early sewing. This bobbin of thread is actually well over 20 years old. It was old when I got it, and that was over 20 years ago. That's the great thing. Old stuff can still be used. know, this thread is really old, and I don't know, I haven't found any problems with it degrading over the years, with it wearing out. And I'm just making sure I take enough material to get a good seam there. Good world news in the animal world. The common crane in the United Kingdom is recovering. They're coming back. This year, their most recent hatch, they had 40 chicks that were counted, and with a total population of around 200, 40 chicks is quite good, and that's very, very encouraging news. So the common crane coming back in the UK. I like to think that all of these animal recovery stories have to do with the environment improving, you know. Because usually animals are dying off because of something that people did to the environment, let's face it. And for them to be coming back, it seems that either we're helping them or we're just making the environment better so that they can come back. And once again thrive. On a very related note, this time in the United States, in Florida, and I didn't actually know that the flamingos were in trouble, but the flamingo population is coming back, so good news there. This happens sometimes, and I'm not quite sure why. Get kind of knotted up as I'm trying to pull through, and then I can't go backwards, I can't go forwards. Try pulling one string at a time, see if that makes a difference. Nope. Alright, well, since that's so nice and tightly sewn in there, I'm just going to carry on. I think I'm actually going to sew it in as I go along, so it's just not dangling out, and then it'll stay. So, here we go. So yeah, just tying that thread back in. It seems to be working out. And then you don't have to start all over. That's one thing I don't like doing when I'm doing anything, and that's going backwards. If something goes wrong, sometimes to a fault, sometimes I should just start over, and I just don't. But I don't think that's the case here. I think we'll be alright. So yeah, Florida flamingo population recovering. Awesome news. Another animal that's coming back is a butterfly, and it's called the Checkered Skipper. And it's really pretty. It actually almost looks like a monarch, like a smaller monarch. And for the first time since the 70s, since the 1970s, the Checkered Skipper has a stable enough population that hobbyists are allowed to pursue them now. Not to like pursue and kill them, but to observe and document. When there's such a low population that human enthusiasm, let's say, could pose a threat, then scientists don't tell the general population where they are. Makes sense. You don't want to tell everybody where the most rare and endangered species are on the planet, because people will try to see them no matter the cost, no matter the detriment to the animals. You know, nature enthusiasts say they love animals, and then they go out and destroy them, or, you know, try to observe them and just disturb them. You know, misguided enthusiasts, I should say. There are obviously nature enthusiasts who know what they're doing, so don't take too much offense. Yeah, neat that they do have a stable enough population to be viewed again in the wild. Alright, so we're about halfway around. Carrying on. Cheers. One more positive bit from the natural world. And speaking of human interference, fishing boats have figured out a way to reduce the amount of what they call bycatch, and that's the species that they don't want in their fishing nets, such as like turtles, sharks, dolphins, that sort of thing. And in order to reduce the bycatch without affecting their regular catch, they've found that green lights on the nets seem to warn away the undesirable creatures. I should maybe not say undesirable, but the stuff that they don't want in their nets. seems to keep them away to the tune of between 50 and 80% less bycatch when they're running lights as opposed to not, with no noticeable effect on their regular catch. So lights on the nets that predator animals see, that turtles, that squid, that sort of thing that they see, but not the fish that you're actually targeting. So going from the animal world being treated better to the human world being treated better. In Belgium, there's a new law for civil servants. If you're a civil servant, there's a law against you being contacted outside of work hours. So if it's the weekend and your boss sends you an email saying, you know, hey, are you ready for the Monday meeting? That's illegal now. And for a lot of working people, that's huge. I know when I was working on call, it was very stressful. And if some people's jobs are basically always on call, where they have to answer their boss any time of night or day, that's a stressful place to be put in. And Belgian civil servants don't have to worry about that anymore. Apparently, this is something that's catching on in quite a number of places that. You know, just trying to improve the quality of life for people when they're not at work. You should be able to relax when you're not at work. If a company has staffing shortages, then they need to solve that issue. They need to not just pile on more hours and burn out your employees. You need to have a decent work-life balance. That's hard to do when you don't feel like you can ever relax, when you feel like you're constantly at work, or when you are literally constantly on call. The only problem is in the job sectors where they already have shortages in staffing. So let's face it, not everybody's smart enough to do certain jobs. And there are a lot of very technical, very demanding jobs out there, which there aren't enough people out there to do. You don't have enough people willing to get the education, make the sacrifices, move, live in remote areas, you know. A lot of big industry, you can't have that stuff in and around cities, so your population ends up having to move to work, and then all you do is work, because that's all there is to do, because there's nothing around. And when you want to talk work-life balance, and your entire life is work, there's no balance. The one thing that might help get more people doing it, though, is if it is less insane as far as the work demands, the hour demands go. If you could have a job like that where you knew you were only working 4 days in a row, and then you were off for 3, that would probably save a lot of people from burning out. Because I know I worked, I think it was over 30 days straight, and it was all overtime, all 12-hour days. And yeah, the checks were nice. That was all that you were. You were just working. And your work becomes your life. And that's when people get way too emotionally involved and just causes stress. Ooh, shorter thread than usual. Oops. One interesting fact, to completely switch gears, for eating, if you are an omnivore, like I am, then you should be aware of the impact that eating meat has on the environment. And just one interesting stat that was thrown out that I thought was kind of poignant. And don't get me wrong, I eat meat. I eat a lot of meat. I grew up on meat and potatoes. I have a really hard time not eating meat. However, one non-meat meal, like switching from having meat to having a vegan or vegetarian option, they claim reduces saves enough greenhouse gas emissions so that the equivalent energy of greenhouse gas emissions would power your cell phone for 2 years from switching over to one meal. I don't know how they switch greenhouse gas emissions over into cell phone usage, and how they figure out average cell phone consumption, whatever, but I think they took a lot of liberties with numbers and came up with the idea of one non-meat meal saving enough greenhouse gas emission energy to power your phone, the equivalent of which would power your phone for 2 years. It's an awkward stat. I don't know why they do stuff like that, because I guess it's just instantly relatable, easy numbers. 1 year, or one meal, 2 years of powering your cell phone. You know, it just sounds impressive. I don't know. Whoever did the math on that, I don't know, man. But yeah, anyways, it saves greenhouse gas emissions. That's the biggest thing I think you need to know, is that you know, one vegetarian meal, veggies instead of meat, saves greenhouse gas emissions, apparently. Apparently. Alright, wow, that went decently quickly. And so let's pull some pins and have a look. On a related note to that last story, people are going vegan or vegetarian for the month of January, and they are calling it Veganuary. So, Veganuary seems to be catching on worldwide. They have hundreds of thousands of participants and users of the hashtag Veganuary. And it's VEG Annuary. So yeah, people are trying to do vegan or vegetarian for the entire month of January, and that could be saving lots of greenhouse gas emissions, lots of energy. Equivalent of a lot of energy, I guess. Another advancement in the move towards a more vegetable-based diet is there was a study on menu design and how menu design can help shape choices for vegetarian, like in favor of vegetarian meals. And basically, it said in the menu, if it had a disclaimer saying, you know, the same fact, you know, try switching one meal kind of thing, you can save a lot of energy and whatever. Or if you have more vegetarian menu options than meat options, you'll be more likely to order a vegetarian option. So disclaimers on menus and more vegetarian options. Make some changes. I'm still going to seek out whatever meat is on that menu, though. Sorry, my system doesn't handle a lot of the non-meat options very well. So let's check out our pocket. Oh man. Oh yeah. Yeah, I think I may have finally gotten this. My third one done. Turned out quite nicely. And now, turn it inside out. Got the cell phone. Used to sit about there. Now, way down in there. That's awesome. So yes, a lot of my jeans are getting longer right-hand pockets. And new back pockets, because the back pockets just completely wear out. So seems to be a theme going on. If there's any clothing manufacturers out there checking out what I'm doing to see how real clothing wears out, Well, that's one thing. Cell phones have changed the length of pockets, in my mind. The way the length of pockets should be. But that's like an extra 3 or 4 inches there. Left one is still normal. Oh, cool. Okay. What else did I have here? Oh yeah, I was gonna clean up. I was gonna do in here. Sorry, my framing is horrible. One last note before I go. Good world news: conversion therapy has been banned in France, and that's conversion therapy. If you're not aware, it's basically the pray away the gay things that they would do, and basically try to exorcise the demons from people with different sexual urges than what the church thought was proper. And that conversion therapy has now been banned in France. It's also been banned in other places around the world. I spoke of it in a previous episode, but just thought I'd share that as well. And then, yeah, I think we'll call her a day. We got our pocket extension done. Next time we'll do something. I might clean this pocket up. I might actually just wear these as they are for now. Yeah, we'll see. I'll take another look over them and see how it goes. Hope you don't mind me taking you with me through the whole journey of the pocket extension. I think it's a handy tool to have in your sewing kit. So, oh yeah, thanks very much for joining me. I really do appreciate the time we get to spend together. Cheers. Till next time, keep chilling. And don't forget your cookie. Peace.